Hey everybody, this morning I was gonna upgrade my shocks on my Land Cruiser 100 series and thought you guys might be interested to see how that's done. So I'm installing a stage 3 Icon suspension. I actually have a stage 1 on there. Long story short, I sent one back. It got lost in shipment. So luckily I insured it, which means I got an opportunity to upgrade. It's kind of cool. And Icon worked with me in getting me stage 3 setup for my front suspension. So today we're going to go through what that looks like. It's a little bit different than putting a regular shock where you just take out 2 bolts, put the shock in, put 2 bolts back in, you're good to go. This has a reservoir on it, and so you got to do a little bit more work. Not that much, but it's definitely a little bit different. So we'll start out with safety first, right? So before you start working on the vehicle, make sure it's in park, make sure the emergency brake's on, and chalk the wheels. That way the vehicle's not moving around on you. Second thing is when you jack it up, especially with the Land Cruiser series, they're a little bit heavy. So don't use a lightweight stand when you have a vehicle that empty is getting close to 7,000 pounds. So not really strong on math, but if you put, you know, 1,000-pound stand on the front of your vehicle and you got 600 pound, well, several hundred pound bumper, and the vehicle already weighs a lot, you're kind of messing with, you're taking some risks, maybe even Darwin award worthy. So with that being said, let's jack up the vehicle and get her started. So the instructions tell you to leave the tension on the torsion bars so they hang and everything. I'm not going to do that. Disclaimer, I'm not a mechanic, I'm a computer geek, so it'd be a really bad idea, but I already had a mechanic do the suspension install initially, so they've already been adjusted for the lift and everything, so I really don't want to mess with that. Granted, if this was a stock install, you totally want to do that because you don't want to overextend the suspension. So since that's not the case, leaving the torsion bars alone. So when in doubt, you know, call tech support, call Vehicle Icon Dynamics, or whoever you get your suspension from. Ask them what the right thing to do is. But in this particular case, I don't feel the need to measure the torsion bars, because they've already been adjusted and new ones have been put on and so on and so forth. Okay, so the first step is you're going to take off the bolts at the top of the shock, and then there's another bolt at the bottom here, and then we'll be ready to install the other shock. So just a little bit of a lesson learned. Go ahead and remove the wheel. It's a lot easier to work with. Should have done it before, but not a mechanic and I was trying to be fast and easy about it. But to get in here, you really need to go ahead and remove that wheel. Again, make sure your vehicle's got its parking brake on, the wheels are chalked, and make sure you're using the right rated stands. So, lesson learned is make sure you get the shock compressed. I'm just using a web belt to keep it in place where I need it. You do not want to just push it in there and let the shock expand, because you need to get a bolt through the lower eyelet in time. If you don't do that, your shock's stuck in the vehicle, and you get to be a little creative on trying to figure out how that gets out. that bolt in place. And you're going to want to double check the rubber spacer up against the top of the frame here. That metal washer should be up against the shock. So an example I'm talking about, got the rubber spacer, the metal washer should be sitting up like so. So the top of the vehicle frame should be right here, if that makes sense. Metal washer right up against the shock, rubber spacer right up against the frame. So just to recap, once you've got your bolt through the lower thread, it's in place. You've got this upper shock threaded through the frame just like you want it. Go ahead and loosen your belt. Again, they make tools for that. That was an easy workaround for me. So, rubber bushing, metal washer, and the larger bolt up on top. So, put that guy up there. And that's just going to barely thread right now. That's there. Alright, so for the next step, you have to install the brackets. So on the passenger side of the vehicle, you have a pre-drilled hole here that already has a nut on the other side. And so in your kit, there is a regular bolt, this guy, that will thread in there. So we're going to use that to install this bracket. On the other side, however, you have to drill a hole, and so when you go to drill that hole, use this as a reference. And so I went to a local mechanic because I didn't have the tools to do it. He drilled this hole for me, and on this side they have some self-tapping screws that you'll use to install this bracket, and we'll show you what that looks like. So for this installation, just where this is placed, I don't want it interfering with the control arm, so I'm going to be using the top hole and put it right there, like so. And I'm going to leave this a little bit loose for right now. Alright, so you've got the two brackets. Slide those guys on here. And those guys should just go on like so. Personal preference, I'm trying to keep these so I can actually get to them easily. Alright. So, point of interest, it says to leave these slightly loose. I think that's kind of weird. I'm guessing it's because this reservoir bracket needs to move. But I'll be calling vehicle dynamics and asking them what this actually should be, because I really don't want this falling off. So I'm going to tighten it a little bit more, but not all the way. So for the driver's side, you're not going to use the standard 8mm, you can use the self-tapping screw, and if you can look at that, it's a little bit blurry. The screw's a little bit different. Using that, and the reason of course is that we just have a straight hole drilled into the side of the frame and it's not threaded yet. Alright, so I just want to make sure that threaded easily before I put the bracket on. So again, I'll be using the top hole. That's because I don't want it bumping up against the control arm. Now it's been threaded, it's a lot easier to get in there. Leave that a little bit loose. Put the brackets on. I've got that where I want it. Try to tighten up a little bit more. And just so it's snug right now. Again, I'm going to call Icon and see what the official implementation should be. So the larger nut you're going to put up here, and you're just going to have barely enough to thread it. What you're going to do is go ahead and thread this guy until you see 4 or 5 threads. Alright, so I've got 4 or 5 threads up there now. So you can put the smaller guy up there. And you tighten this to 35 pounds. There you go. Alright, give you one last look at it before we put the tire back on. And in the instruction it says to make sure you retorque the bolts every 100 miles, or the first 100 miles for sure, and then every so often after that. Okay, one last side note. I'm not sure how well you can see this. It's a numbering scheme here. There's an S, it's actually S23 through 9H. So S is soft, H is hard. And this isn't in the instructions on the with the kit, but when you go online, it says that if you just got a stock shock from Icon without the reservoir, it's the equivalent to 4. So I'm setting mine to 4 just because that's what I'm going to start out with, and then if I don't like that, I'll adjust it as we go. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's probably not the most efficient way to install a pair of shocks, and probably all the mechanics out there are probably turning over in their graves, but there you go. Hope you guys have a good one. Cheers.